We made it live. So I just want to introduce our special guest today, Leonie, and she has the same spelling as me. So I really have to think about it when I say her name because, it's one of those things when you say someone's name incorrectly, you get it wrong every time, right?
Yeah. There's a funny way to remember. So I dated this guy years ago at uni, and I saw him trying to teach his mum how to say my name. And he was like, it's Princess Leia. And then he tapped his knee and said knee. And I'm like, Leia knee. And so I literally have that in my bio. My name is Princess Leia knee. So there you go. You will never forget it now.
No, it's honestly, I have to do that in my head every time I say it.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good.
So we actually met just recently at a networking event. So it was Angela Henderson's networking event, hotel party. And both of us have been in her circles for a long time.
Yeah, that's amazing.
But we just happened to both turn up to this event, and we have so much in common.
Yeah.
Sisters, absolutely. Same name, same sort of mission in life. Yeah. But yeah, it's just been amazing. So today I've invited Leonie to join us to talk a little bit about her business and how she helps women to tap into their femininity, their intuition. There's so much that we can dive into today. So let's just start with Leonie. Tell us a little bit about what you do and your journey, how you got there.
Awesome. Yeah, today I definitely want to talk about sacred intimacy and divine feminine leadership and all of those glorious topics. But my journey really started with a divorce, right? Like this is what happens to us. We travel along and everything's glorious, and then suddenly something really bad happens and it kind of wakes us up. Now, you don't have to awaken through suffering. You can totally awaken through joy, but 99.999% of us will awaken through a traumatic event, right?
Exactly. The rebirth, right?
The rebirth, absolutely the rebirth. So I was, married, and then I wasn't, and I was 35 and I was a single mom, and, that was not on my vision board, right? Like, I was devastated for a long time. It actually took me about 3 years to get out of that like victim mindset and try to change things. I was really stuck in my own suffering. But I reflect now, that was my ex-husband and I have a really good relationship because we co-parent, right? And actually it was would have been our wedding anniversary last week. He wouldn't have even remembered, but we actually had to have a meeting with our son's school on that day just to support him a bit at high school. And I sat there and thought, look at us. We got married 16 years ago. We got divorced. It's really, divorce is messy. But here we are co-parenting our son. He's 14 now. And, I'm really proud of us. Like, we're both remarried, we both have more children. And I know it can be a really difficult road to navigate. So, you can co-parent really well. And it can all be done with conscious awareness, right? So at the time, it was like the worst thing that ever happened to me. But now I reflect back and I'm like, oh, thank God. Like, thank God that happened. Yeah. Because I wrote a beautiful book called Mother Om. I started a business teaching kids and families. That, led me to be a speaker. And, we're talking, I went from working with kids, and now I sort of stand up in front of huge corporations and teach corporate wellness. So I've gone from sort of, teaching 5-year-olds to CEOs. I always say there's not much difference. Like, when you're in that space. But it's been a really amazing journey. But my soul work has always been women. Yeah. I've always been supporting women. And I've been reflecting a lot, like my missions and my values have not changed. So when I started my business 12 years ago, it was to keep families connected. And it still is. Like, I'm still, because I went through that divorce and that really shapes your identity, it still is keeping families connected. And I started with kids and families, and then I worked with mums for years, and I ran regular retreats. And then I became, a speaker. And I think I'm going to go back to university, which is really exciting. I'm going to be like a super mature student, but I want to study a master's in mental health with a focus on child and adolescent mental health. And I really have been reflecting, like, that's been my mission since it happened. Yeah. And I'm really passionate about, I want to support families and mums and dads, but it's always about the kids, right? You're only as happy as your unhappiest child.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, coming back to the women, like as the mother, you're the one that holds the whole family together. You're the glue.
Absolutely.
And if you're running on empty, if you're not fulfilling yourself, obviously you've got nothing left to give. I always say, you can't give from an empty cup. You've got to fill your own cup so that you've got overflow to then be able to support your kids. Because what good are you if you're, frazzled and running on, on fumes?
Oh, you'll just have a mental breakdown. Like this is what happens with stress in the body. We all have to manage acute stress, like it's part of our daily life, but over time that becomes chronic. And many of us are chronically stressed and we don't even realize that we are. We just get up and we fuel ourselves with caffeine and alcohol and we're just going through the motions and we're addicted to the busyness, right?
Yeah.
And then our body just can't cope anymore and just shuts down, and we'll get a virus, and it could be just a cold or something, but it could be much worse. You get a thyroid issue, or your body's always trying to communicate. And I see this over and over again, that like with women particularly are just expelling so much energy. And then if you think about energy, everything is energy, but like we really only have a certain amount of capacity. Like our nervous systems can only cope with so much.
Yeah.
Right. And so especially as, we're raising kids, and I know me and you have neurodiverse kids, so that brings its own layer of joy and triumph, but also challenge.
Yeah.
And so it's so multidimensional. And when I look at what's happened in the last few years with COVID, and I've seen, I've been in that corporate space and I've still been supporting women, and that not all my clients are mums. Like I don't believe you have to be a biological mother. You're mothering pets and partners, and you're out there in your community, right?
Yeah.
And as women, we go through the 3 phases of maiden, mother, crone, or mystic, right? And these are all transitions that women go through. So I've supported women throughout all those phases, and I'm going to be 50 in, oh my God, 3 years or something, which I think, oh my God, that's kind of wild, but to me, that's really exciting. Like I'm excited about, going through menopause and going into that next phase of evolution as a woman. Like that's your most powerful time.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah. And you touched on before, like how we create illness by, the stress in our lives. How do you see the manifestation of people holding on to things and, the trauma that we kind of collect? How do you see that manifesting in women's bodies? Because I think it's really important for women to understand that there's so many layers to it. And unless you actually let yourself access that, and deal with it, that it's going to manifest as, something in your body.
Oh, it's proven by science that this will happen. I mean, we all have trauma from when we were children, or, people have said things to us, and we carry around all these beliefs that aren't actually ours, but we believe the stories in our head, right? Yeah. So we all have a certain amount of trauma that we carry. And then, of course, we have different layers of stress. And now some stress is really good for you. There's something called eustress, which is positive, right? If you didn't have a certain amount of stress, you wouldn't have any motivation. You'd never write books. You'd never complete projects, right? You'd never go out and create anything. So you need to have a certain amount of stress. But for most of the women I see, or just in general, people are just carrying way too much, right? There's no tribe. Life is really busy. The cost of living, there's so many layers. And so we don't prioritize our well-being. Yeah. Like we just don't. And that's a real detriment, because if you don't have your health, like if you are ill, what do you want to be? Yeah. You want to be well.
That's right.
Right? There's like no 2 ways about it. So, I made a conscious choice. Like I had so much anxiety in 2020. Like I'm, like we're all highly empathetic beings, but I could really feel the world, right? The constriction of what was happening in 2020. And like, it was really, I had a lot of anxiety, and, I went to my GP, and she's, you do all the blood tests, and they're like, oh, take some meds. And I'm like, no, I don't want to take meds. I know I can help myself. So I don't drink coffee, and I don't drink much alcohol. And I'm really like, my sleep hygiene is really good. I'm really mindful now of what triggers stress in the body, because you have 2 nervous systems, and you have your survival fight, flight, freeze. And there's one called fawning, which, like, whenever I share this, people are like, oh yeah, I do that all the time. And that's basically people pleasing.
Right. Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I do that all the time. That's a real subtle one, but it's a stress response because we don't want to deal with confrontation. I do it all the time with my kids.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, just have it. Can't deal with it.
Exactly, right. You can have it. I don't care anymore.
Whatever. And that is actually a stress response, right? We're trying to keep ourselves safe. Like, it's about survival.
Yeah.
What happens over time is that your nervous system isn't going into rest and digest, right? Which is where your cells renew, right? And you sleep really deeply. And so if you're getting woken up at like 3 or 4 a.m., it's because your body can't detox. So it's waking you up. And then, I got really kind of obsessed about sleep because I just didn't have it for a long time. Like, my kids were, particularly my middle child and my youngest, had really bad sleep.
Yeah.
And I had to like retrain myself,
yeah,
right, to sleep well again. And I just won't sacrifice it now. Like,
yeah,
I just will not go out. Like, I went out and, I was watching the Matildas and I had a cider, and it was a really, it's like a lifetime history in the making.
Yeah.
But I slept really bad. I literally felt hungover the next day, and I'd had one drink, and I was just like, for me, it's a poison that you're putting in your body.
Yeah. Yeah.
But women over 45 are the highest consumers of alcohol.
Yeah. And the thing is, when it's a daily thing, it just feels normal. But when you detox, when you cut it out of your system, when you're being really healthy, you notice it. As soon as you have one drink, as soon as you eat something you're not supposed to eat, you notice it in your body, and you wonder, okay, like, when you're constantly eating the wrong things and drinking lots of coffee and drinking lots of alcohol, it becomes your new normal.
Yeah.
And it's such a difference. Like, it just doesn't, you don't feel all those aches and pains because it's every day, the headaches, whatever it looks like.
And you're just fueling anxiety, and it's the worst thing for menopause. Like, if you're a woman over 35, you can go into menopause, perimenopause anytime. The worst thing is alcohol and coffee.
Yeah.
Right. And they were the two things, they were my crux. Like, I would,
most, I think. Yeah.
Right. And I always kind of laugh because I actually think I just partied so hard, like, when I was younger, like, my liver's like like, literally, I just, and like, I can't even, like you say, even with food, if we go out for burgers, I just know I'm going to feel terrible the next day.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, that's okay, like, if someone's birthday, but I have to be super mindful of what, and I do detox regularly. I detox 2 or 3 times a year, and it is so important to flush it out of your body. And you don't have to be that extreme. There's lots of things you can do, but it's just being really mindful that you have one body, right? And you have one precious life. And what you do, in your 30s and 40s totally depicts your health in your 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
And I think most women have a wake-up call in their 40s.
Yeah.
Right? There's so many like undiagnosed adults with ADHD, right? And they can't cope anymore because then menopause hits and they can't cope with the anxiety, right? The body just can't cope. And so you're starting to see people, needing more, understanding more about mental health, understanding what the body-mind addiction to stress. Like, we are so addicted to our stress.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, we are so addicted to our suffering. And even if we don't suffer, we don't want to tell other people that life is great, because then we're going to be really judged and they're going to be like, well, my life is really shit. Why are you telling me your life is amazing? Right? It's like, we kind of hide our joy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the whole comparison thing, and social media is really bad for that. It's like, I'm just going to post how amazing my life is. And we all know that life is just not like that.
No, that's right. Yeah.
Flow through, good times and bad times, and messy and ugly and joyful, and we're human beings, so we can yo-yo from like bliss to rage in a heartbeat.
Yeah. And it's part of the human experience. If we didn't have the lows, we wouldn't have the highs. But it's about finding that balance where you're not having the extreme highs and the extreme lows, so that you're not getting that massive withdrawals in between.
The body-mind connection, like, it's all one. There's no separation between mind, body, and spirit. And I think when we talk about sacred femininity and like intimacy specifically, what I think most women are missing is a devotion to their spiritual practice.
Yeah.
Because you cannot do it on your own. Like you're not living in a tribe where people are looking after your children.
Yeah.
All isolated. We're all doing it on our own. And we need to feel loved and supported. And there is just this abundance of love and support out there. And whatever we're all devoted to something. And the program I run, Wild Wellness, it's WILD stands for wellness, intuition, leadership, and devotion. And the devotion is all the way through. It's like you have to be devoted to yourself.
Yeah.
No one else is going to do it for you. You have to be plugging in to oxytocin every day. So the hormone that makes you feel loved, right, and supported. Yeah. So whether that's a 5-minute meditation or a green juice or wild sex, I'm all about the orgasms. That's like the big stress relief that you could, ever go for. Like you need to release the energy from your body. Yeah. Because emotion is energy in motion. That's what emotion is. Yeah. Right. So you just think about it like it's like waves moving through your body, like it gets stuck. Yeah. Right. And then we feel overwhelmed, or we feel like we're procrastinating, or we start comparing ourselves, or we start judging. We go into all those like low vibrational feelings. And I think a lot of people feel really stuck at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah. But there are, like you said, there's so many ways to shift that low vibration into something better, just by nurturing yourself in whatever way possible. And even, having a good cry, watching, a flick and having a good cry. That's another way to just release those emotions, because you've got, like you said, they've got to come out.
Yeah. The two quickest ways to release stress is exercise and meditation. So and I don't exercise, as much as I should. I love yoga. That's my, my devotional practice, but I really love sex. So for me and my husband, like we're both divorced, but we've been together now for 10 years and we still have sex like teenagers.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And people would be like, oh, that's going to go. And I'm like, but it's been 10 years now.
10 years is
like we're still at it. And I think it's really important. Like for us, we know it both releases stress. Yeah. Right. It's such a, it's the most potent way of doing it. Yeah. And when you've got this divine connection to yourself and you've got this spiritual connection, then you realize that everything is spiritual. So actually, that's a devotional practice for me. Yeah. Right. And because it's all about connection. So when we feel like separated from ourselves, right, or isolated, or all of those feelings, what we need is connection. So we need connection to ourselves, which then we can give to others, and then we have this connection with our world, right? Yeah. And that's what I think people are missing. So you might be healthy and you might have a really successful business, but on the inside you might have this deep sense of a fear of rejection or a deep sense of unworthiness, and that's just going to play out in your life over and over again until you meet that shadow. And this is the work I do. Like it's deep. Like we go into our shadows and we meet those fears and we release them with compassion. And I teach all these tools to allow women to do that whenever they feel stressed, whenever they feel discomfort. Like they've got this whole spiritual toolkit to be able to release that emotion, because it will get stuck. And there's so much research now that says, your body knows the score, trauma stays in your body. It will manifest as, anxiety, and then, you'll get a physical manifestation. Like 99% of all disease is caused by stress. Like that's a fact. Yeah. Yeah. And so we have a responsibility that we must try to release stress. Yeah. From our bodies. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love the work that you're doing and helping women to gently step into that feminine, to help them release those traumas. Because it's something that's been needed for a long time, I think. And our connection to community, we have lost that along the way. We, like you said, we don't have our tribes. Women used to sit together to do their daily tasks, whether it was cooking or the washing or whatever, and just, talk while they were doing it. Now, everything is so automated and we don't even need ourselves doing half of those daily tasks. We put it in the dishwasher and in the washing machine and we walk out the door and we get busy.
Yeah. And we get busy because we're just filling a void. Yeah. Like if my joy is to sit in my garden and do nothing. Yeah.
I love that too. So much now, you know.
And so yesterday, you know, we're both in Brisbane, and there was a day, you know, for Eka, right? Like it's a public holiday, which is kind of hilarious, right? Like, let's have a day off to go to a show that's, you know, I think I saw you take your girls. We've never been. We go to a local show in Sanford where we go. We love that.
Yeah.
But I said to my husband, oh my God, like we just lounged around and we watched movies. And I was like, this is just what we need to do every week.
Yeah.
This like, hump day should be a reset day.
Yeah.
Like it's so nice to do that, but we don't. We just push, and we work long hours. Like I often feel like I'm on a show. Like there's this funny show when I grew up in England called Supermarket Sweep, and you had 10 minutes to fill a trolley and you could keep what was in the trolley. I'm like, that's my life.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Like it's just, everything is just so scheduled and everything's on a time limit, right? And like you're just rushing from one thing to the next, especially with 3 children. And mine are really like, I've got 5, 8 and 14, right? So I've got all the ages, you know.
Yeah.
Very different needs, and it's just, sometimes I'm like, this is just a joke, you know, like it's ridiculous. And all that does is fuel that nervous system, right, to produce more cortisol and more stress in the body. So, but some people will be like, why would I sit with myself? Like that's terrifying. But there's so much joy in just witnessing, you know, the flowers, the trees, nature, the sunlight, your kids laughing. You know, that's real mindfulness. Like I've taught mindfulness for years, and it's being able to just be present with what is.
Yeah.
And just, there's so much joy in the present moment.
Yeah.
But for most of us, it's like I'm stuck in the past and I'm worrying about all the things that I can't change.
Yeah.
Or I'm freaked out about what if, you know, the future. And so we live in the past or the future. And it's like, well, can't change either of those things.
That's right. Yeah.
Like they don't exist. They're spaces that don't exist. Past has happened, future hasn't happened. Like life is now. Yeah. And this is what I teach women to do. It's about being present. And it's about being 100% connected to your intuition.
Yeah.
You will never question your decisions. Like I had a client last week, and I just taught her how to know the difference between a yes and a no, and doing it from her soul, so that her body, because the soul speaks to the body speaks to the mind. Yeah. Right. And then the mind tells you what to do. For most of us, we skip the first bit and the mind starts creating a story around something, right? The mind's always looking for evidence. Well, last time I did that happened, so I shouldn't do that again. Yeah. I'm such an idiot. Right? That's not how, if you want to live your life with ease, flow, and grace, that's like don't do that. Yeah. Yeah. And it is hard listening to your intuition. Like I'm a splenic projector, so I have to operate from my intuition. If I don't, I end up out of alignment. And I've thought recently, after doing human design and learning more about myself, I've thought throughout the, you know, process of how I've come to be where I am. And those pivotal moments are when I've really just listened to my intuition. You know, and, you know, for 6 years, I was a backpacker by myself, traveling the world on my own. And I just went with my intuition the whole time. And it was amazing. And, you know, me too. When I first got my first photography studio, I wasn't like on paper looking at the numbers. I was like, I can't do this. But my intuition said, yes, you can. Just do it and see what happens. Like, what's worst case scenario? It doesn't work. Yeah. And we're all intuitive. Like this is a complete myth that some people are intuitive and some people aren't. Everybody has this amazing ability inside of them, but it's like a muscle. You have to use it. It's like go to the spiritual gym. Yeah. Right. And so there are so many myths around intuition. Like everybody has it, but there's actually layers and there's different types. Right. So you need education. You need education around intuition. And then you need to know how you receive it, because we receive it in different ways. And then you need to bloody listen to it. Because most people will get intuition or divine guidance or whatever, but they'll be like, oh no, I'm not going to do that. That's way out of my comfort zone, or that's way too scary. Like, why would I leave my job and become a photographer? Then the mind clicks in and gives you all the reasons why you can't. Yep. Yeah. Because the saboteur will have a field day. Yeah. You know, right? Like the ego is like, oh, And the saboteur is super sneaky, right? It's just like a little voice that's like, well, who's going to read your blog? And why would, like, you know, it's just that little voice. And my ego has a name. My ego is called Dave. He was the first boyfriend that I had when I was 16 to 20, and we partied really hard. And it's just funny because now I'd be like, oh, shut up, Dave. You know, like, I know that's bullshit. Like, just shush. And I've been teaching my kids, you know, and my daughter's 8, and she'll be like, oh, my ego told me to do it. And I'll be like, yeah, your ego tells you to do really stupid things sometimes. And we're really trying to teach her, you know, about her conscience and about the other voice that says, should I really do this?
Yeah.
You know, I don't think she's got that at all. And we're kind of,
my eldest is the same. Hey.
like, you know, Jimmy Cricket, like when I'm showing her movies, right? And I'm like, that's your conscience. Like, is he talking to you?
Yeah.
So, you know, like just to have, because I know my son, like, he's older now, and he definitely, you know, battles with doing, you know, making good choices. I mean, they've got ADHD and they've got autism. I know that's a lot harder, like their prefrontal cortex is impaired, right? So it's much harder for them to make choices. But, you know, it's just practice, isn't it? It's like, even we struggle to make choices. And I think that's what I help my clients with, you know, like it's knowing what to say yes to and what to say no to. And then it's having the trust and the courage to follow through with it. You know, so many people don't start businesses or don't write books or don't fall in love, or because they're just too scared. And it's like, well, if you live your whole life like that, you'll end up lying on your deathbed and you'll be like, I just regret all the things I didn't do.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you don't want to look back on your life and go, well, I was too fearful to try anything. So I didn't do anything. Regretted everything.
And, you know, I for some reason, it is a bit morbid, but I actually am really fascinated about things like that. You know, I love reading autobiographies or people who've lived a really full life and their wisdom, right? Like, that's why I'm super excited about this mystic crone energy. So I feel like you get so much wisdom as you age. There's so much power in that. Like, I used to work in an old people, like an elderly nursing home, when I was a student, right? And it was a bit depressing because they were all, you know, had dementia or various things, but they would all have these amazing stories. Their memory was impaired, but they would remember the war. They remember, you know, and I just listened to them and I'd be like, wow, it's quite amazing. Like, just listening to them talk about their lives, what they remember, because obviously they might not remember their own children, which is devastating, but they'd remember, you know,
it's funny, isn't it?
And just, you know, and I think, it's amazing. Like, you know, I was actually watching a webinar with Dr. Daniel Siegel all about implicit memories and how trauma changes our memories and how we can be re-triggered. And I just find it so fascinating. I just love neuroscience and mental health and all of that. I just think is so fascinating, because our role as women and spiritual leaders is our purpose in this world is to awaken and evolve. Like, that's it. And you can do it however you decide to do it. We all have different variations of what our purpose is. Like, it can be being a beautiful, connected mother, or a photographer, or, you know, an author, or whatever. But I do believe that, you know, we need to be in spaces of compassion and forgiveness and self-acceptance, like, every day, so that we can meet our fears and our uncertainties, you know, with that love and that compassion. And like, that's what's missing for so many people, where they just keep beating themselves up about, you know, things that have happened or things they've done or what their kids have done, or, you know. And I talk about this in corporate so much, but it's like, you have to focus on what you can control.
Exactly. And you need to forgive yourself for past mistakes. You know, it's all a lesson. Life is just growth. It's just about learning the lessons along the way. Because if you hold on to that, you know, creates more trauma.
It does. And you just re-traumatize yourself. Because you just play it over and over and over and over again. And you're just, you're re-traumatizing yourself. And also, you know, let's say someone's really hurt you. Like, I'll give my ex-husband as an example. Like, he really broke my heart. And I went on this Buddhist retreat about a year later. And I was doing this really intense meditation, and it was about, think of someone who's hurt you, and you're like, okay, straight away, obviously I think of him, right? And I'm doing this breath practice where I had to inhale white light and exhale smoke. So it was like really intense, because you're kind of like exhaling the fear. And then they're like, now change the person to you and forgive yourself. And I had a full-blown panic attack and had to, like, I was in this room with hundreds of people, and I went outside and I couldn't breathe. And I had not once looked at forgiving myself. I blamed him, it was everything, and it was like, oh my God, of course it wasn't just him. A marriage doesn't just break down because of one person. And it was like, oh my God. And so now, it's easy for us to forgive. Well, forgiveness is difficult, but it's easier for us to forgive others, right? But it's very hard for us to forgive ourselves, because we have to take like sole ownership of a situation. And the first step to healing is self-awareness. The first step to emotional intelligence is self-awareness. I'll watch, I love watching content and videos and all kinds of things. And the message is just always the same. Like, you have to soothe yourself before you can soothe your kids. You have to love yourself before you can love another and be in a really good marriage. Right. Like,
and we're stepping into this age now of self-responsibility. I know that's been something in recent years that I've just noticed in the collective of people just not being responsible for themselves,
that's the child archetype. Right. Just abdicate responsibility. It's not my fault.
Really like triggers me. Like, it'll be something like, someone not turning up for an appointment or not responding to a message, going, oh, I forgot. And it's like, I'm not here to look after your calendar and baby you. Like, you're not me, you're not my child. I think we're stepping into this age of Aquarius where it is all about self-responsibility.
And it's the women. I really believe it's this. I mean, look, I love the masculine and the feminine, right? Like, it's actually all about the union, right? It's the Shakti Shiva union. But what I have shared with you before is a lot of people think like divine feminine leadership or femininity is this soft, compassionate, floaty dresses, right? And like, of course, that's part of our femininity. But my inner feminine is so fierce. Like, she is so fierce, right? Like, she's a proper lioness. And I've got this like amazing tattoo of a lion, and like, she's fierce, and she's the one who's like, you will be in devotion and you will go out and create interviews and podcasts and write books and do all this stuff, right? It's not my masculine that's doing that. Like, and people think that, oh, it's your masculine's all about get up and you got to go, you got to be busy, but that's the addiction to stress.
But it's being purpose driven, isn't it? It's having a purpose, having a bigger vision, and doing your life's work.
Absolutely. And I'm very connected with the Institute of Intuitive Intelligence, who I studied with. And, I love all of her teachings, but, we really go into goddesses and meditate with them. And I love all the stories as well. But one thing she shares that I really love is that Jesus was actually a goddess. And, we always look at Jesus as a biblical figure, but he was like, he was the epitome of compassion, like his story and journey. And so the masculine is actually this very soft, compassionate space. Like, I look at my husband, and, I love that he has very masculine qualities, but he's also very compassionate, and I really like, I melt into that masculinity that's really compassionate. And then, it's the other way of what people typically think with the feminine. It's like, because what happens with our intuition is we go through layers, right? And we start off in like the primary gut biological intuition that everybody has. And then we work our way up to like surrender. Like, I'm in full surrender to the universe. But there's a shadow and a light side to both. There's 4 layers. There's a shadow and a light. So the light is, I will follow what God says or the universe says to me. I will never question it, and I'll fully trust. But the dark side is, well, I'm just in this space of bliss. Why would I even conform in the world? The world is full of assholes. Like, I just want to float around in my bliss. So I'm just going to abdicate and ignore right?
Yeah.
And so there's always a shadow and a light. There's always a light and a dark, and that's us as human beings. You know, we are sexual and spiritual, and you know, all of these amazing things, and we are light and dark.
Yeah.
You know, we have this energies inside of us all of the time, and our role is to balance that masculine and feminine energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what people are missing as well. It's like they're either too masculine, right, or too feminine.
Yeah, it's that constant struggle, between the masculine and the feminine. And I know I struggle with it because, like you, my feminine is very fiery. I get very stuck in the, the busyness.
Yeah, it's addictive. It's totally addictive.
Yeah,
it's totally addictive. You know, like it's really hard for us to just do nothing and feel good about ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we want to tick all the things off so we feel really good that we were so productive.
Yeah.
But you're just, obviously you need to go out and do things that, you can't just lay around, especially if you've got young children. But there is so much joy in the nothingness. Like there's.
But I think part of that is guilt. You feel the guilt that you're not doing enough, or you're not doing, what is expected of you, and what will people think of me, how, and it comes back to business as well. Like, you got to work hard. If you want to make money, you can't take time for yourself. But yeah, it is about listening to what you need, because I know even myself, like I love going to the gym and I go most mornings, but like, for instance, this morning I was like, you know what, I really just need to take some time for myself. I'd rather, stay home and do some stretching. And I know that tomorrow my coach is going to be like, where were you yesterday? Yeah. And so that guilt creeps in, and it's like, no, this is actually what I need today. I need to take time for myself and spend that hour that I would normally spend at the gym, just meditating, doing some stretching, doing some journaling, preparing for my day.
Absolutely. Conscious choices.
Yeah.
Like we are basically in control only of our well-being, right? We're not in control of anything else.
Yeah.
Right? Can't control anything outside of our decisions, our thoughts, our actions. So ultimately, our wellness is in our control, right? What we put in our body, the choice that you made about going to the gym, all of that's in our control. So we have divine will, and divine will is our greatest asset, or it's just going to tear us apart. Right? Yeah. You want to lose 5 kilos? It's up to you. You can detox, you can fast. Like I did that before I had my photo shoot in Bali, and I lost 4 kilos and I felt so amazing in my body.
Yeah.
It was a conscious choice. It was a sacred experience for me to go and, take my clothes off in the jungle and be in that devotion.
Yeah.
And I want to look back and go, you looked hot. You looked really hot, when you were 46. Because we all know, as you get older, it's like you're going to lose that youthfulness.
Yeah.
Not inside, but your skin is obviously.
Well, there's things like gravity and collagen that we have to deal with.
Yeah. I was rubbing my collagen cream on this morning, actually. I was like, oh yeah, jelly face. But we want to age gracefully. Like we don't want to be looking at ourselves and feeling really negative about it. But it's all about perception at the end of the day. So it's the perception of. You are in control of your thoughts, feelings, and actions. You're manifesting every moment of every day because you manifest from your feeling state.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're in love and compassion and devotion and joyfulness, you will manifest more of that.
Yeah.
Like attracts like. If you are in fear and worry and anxiety and pain and suffering, you will attract more of that.
Yeah. And that just becomes like the rabbit hole, right? It's like that vortex that you can't dig yourself out of because you're attracting more of the same. Yeah.
And then you're like blaming everyone, and I'm a good spiritual person, and you're shouting instructions at the universe, and like it just becomes like a battle,
Yeah.
And so again, there's the light and the dark side of the layers that you go through, and it's understanding that and knowing, and it's discernment, right? Like using discernment.
Yeah.
We all have a choice of what we do with our time. And also I really love to reframe the idea around time. And I know we probably should stop talking because we've been chatting for ages and I've got a call soon, but On time, it is not about time. It is about energy.
Yeah.
So do not manage your time.
Yeah.
Manage your energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because time is limited.
And time is a man-made concept.
Yeah, totally. Totally. And the biggest objection I have is I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time to do that. I don't have enough time to meditate. I don't have enough time to do what you're telling me to do. And I'm like, well, okay, that's your choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's your choice. And if you want to change, if you want to transform, you have to make changes.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well,
boom.
On that note.
Oh, I could talk to you all day.
I know, we always do this.
The reason I fell in love with you is we had to share at this networking event, like books we were reading.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I'm reading The Women That Run with Wolves. And I'm like, oh. And then like my hair's not as pink as it was.
But, neither's mine.
Yeah, I was trying to pink it up with some shampoo over the weekend, but like we both had our pink hair, like, you know, I was like, I just want to talk to you. And it was just, I love that when you meet someone and you just have that connection. And it's always a soul connection. Yeah. You know, and it just doesn't happen all the time, but when it does, it's kind of like, you just know you want to support each other. Yeah. Like I've got a really good friend that actually, she did my human design for me, and I'm a manifester. Yeah. And it's just fascinating. And she just said to me, you are a Prada in a sea of Kmarts. And I was like, yes, I am. Yes. So I now go out and look for the other Pradas, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's that just like, you know, both of us probably, for that event that we went to and we met at, we probably both had the same sort of feelings of, oh, I can't be bothered. I'd rather put my pajamas on.
Totally. I totally almost did. I think it was like raining, or I so almost didn't go. Yeah. But again, it's a choice, isn't it? Like networking is something I really enjoy. And, you know, and I do love I'm very extrovert. I do love meeting people. Yeah. But I also, you know, like I do like being at home, and I like like the best part of my day is putting on my PJs and my slippers. Yeah.
I do it as soon as I possibly can, whatever time I walk in the door, whether it's 3 o'clock or 8 o'clock, doesn't matter.
But I love Zoom because it's like I'm just in my PJs and I just have like a nice face on.
Just do the top. Yeah.
It's just the light and beneath is the dark. Oh, it's so funny. So good to chat with you.
So do you want to share with everybody, I know that you said that like your journey's changing, you're looking at going back to uni, you've only got space to work with a couple of women right now, but tell us all where we can find you in case, you know, the ladies here want to connect.
Yeah, look, beautiful. Look, I've got my own website, so it's leonielaukkanen.com. That's a mouthful, so we'll just put a link.
We'll put a link in.
But I do offer a 6-week program, and it's a one-on-one program, and it's a real deep dive into the WILD acronym and the WILD wellness, which is well-being, leadership, intuition, other way around, you know what I mean, and devotion. Yeah. And so we really, you know, it is a journey to connect you really strongly with your intuitive intelligence. So your intuitive intelligence is intuition combined with spiritual fierceness, right, and self-esteem, right, and you've got to put them together. And then you can go out there. And I've had women go and create businesses, write books, start charities. One of my clients just got an OBE the other day. Like, just really like they connect to that fierce energy that we're talking about, that is purpose-led. So it's really life-changing. Yeah. And I've been really reflecting on, you know, my kids got my 3rd little one going to school next year. And this postgrad opportunity just fell out of nowhere. And, you know, like I'm all about manifesting with the universe. So I teach women how to co-create their life with the universe. So I'm like, I want to do a postgrad, and I saw this, you know, advert, and I clicked on it. And then the next thing I see, the government are now giving out fees. So the whole thing would cost me like, it's like an $11,000 course, and it would cost me like $3,000. And I'm just like, right, because mental health is such an issue that we need more mental health practitioners. And, you know, I've always been really passionate about children and adolescents, and, you know, it's just like you just get drawn into these things, and I've sat with it, and it's just such a strong feeling in my being.
Follow the breadcrumbs.
So it's just things happen, you know, and
Yeah.
that's not where I thought I'd go next year.
Yeah.
In fact, I think I'm going to start in October. So so literally I've got, you know, I think I'll only have capacity for two clients for the rest of the year, and then I'll be winding things down. And I'm super excited. Like, again, you know, I love writing. I've written 2 books, and so for me, writing essays is easy.
Yeah.
And you know, I've got that whole ADHD hyper focus thing going on, where it's like, if I'm in it, I'm like so devoted.
Yeah.
Right? Like the passion. And so I'm really excited to learn how to support families, because I know so many families are struggling, you know.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, I really have this like my soul just wants to help, you know, like I just really want to help people.
Yeah.
And you know, I know that like we all have mental health things going on in my family. Like, you know, it's not like chronic, but it's all like we're always trying to manage people's feelings.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know, there's just a lot of feelings.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and it's really hard to navigate that. It's hard to navigate our children, our partners, and ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to slip down a road where, like I read an article from Harvard University that 50% of people will struggle with mental health in their life. 50%. That's like me or you.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's preventable, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
it's very much about recognizing what's happening, looking for the support,
yeah,
you know, being proactive on changing the way that you're thinking. Yeah.
It absolutely. It's all about what we're thinking, you know, like your mind is your best friend or your worst enemy. Like, I really believe that. And, you know, we have this is why there's people that go out there and create like $1 million businesses and like these amazing spiritual thought leaders. Like, they're not sitting in their victim archetype.
No.
Right. You know, like, it's all about mindset.
It is. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So joyful, my love. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
And I really want to do a photo shoot. I've been looking at your photos. I want to do one with my husband. I don't know if you've done that, but I want to do like a boudoir shoot, because we celebrate 10 years this year. Yeah. And I'd like to do a sexy photo shoot with him.
Oh yeah. Amazing.
Because, you know, we're like, we can put it on the wall, make people really uncomfortable when they come over. Yeah, yeah. All the kids will be like, how could you? We wouldn't do that. But I just think you should celebrate love and you should celebrate relationships, you know, and we have such a sacredly, like, it's just such a beautiful connection, and I want to photograph that. But we need to go to the gym a bit first. Yeah. That's it. Put it on the bucket list. Yeah, well, November is our anniversary. But it's and this is the thing, like, we need, you know, I think we need that intention. Like, that's the thing. If we have something we want to achieve, like, I don't like the word goal, but if you have the intention, then you focus on it, right, and you'll get there. So that's right. It's all part of the journey. But thank you, my love. You're welcome. Have an amazing day. You too. Thank you. Bye.